So, hey everybody, how are you doing? I was sort of putting off this video of knowing that I really don't get involved in mainstream issues. But I think the whole philosophical sensibility thing about what's going on in 2020 is definitely affecting everyone. And it kind of needs to be talked about with some logic and sense with people that don't really follow what the hordes are doing or what the sheeple, that's such a good one. I heard vegetable police use that the other day, and I thought that term is so like 12 years ago. David, what's that conspiracy guy? David Icke. I think that might be, I'm not sure if he coined it, but it's definitely the first time that I heard it used. So there's people that got to be slightly responsible that can actually think for themselves and don't have this tendency to be like um, lemmings, another good word, yeah, just of trying to figure out on matters that really, boy, I've really deducted this down. So, of course, you know what I'm talking about, and I'm going to stop and speak in code when I'm I'm going to make it obvious. I just don't want the little robots to find me because apparently channels are getting, or YouTube is reacting to people talking too openly about, yeah, the thing that is has a C in its first letter and a V in its second letter, as people refer to it. Here on referred to as CV. So I think right away my attitude out the door was I don't have anything to worry about because I've been taking medicinal mushrooms and astragalus and um, overall doing possibly a very elite. When I say elite, I don't mean like special, like money, like wealthy. I mean elite in the consciousness of evaluating what is important to having a long, healthy life where you're thinking and getting to be spiritual and like um, try to figure out what your will is, your reason for being here, which is different for everybody. It's like probably the thing where we're the most varied, really, of all the ways that we can be different. So, Chinese tonic herbs, these are all the big heavy hitters. There's really almost nothing that you can compare for as far as things that are enhancing the immune system. Now, I started out real early myself, so I just, you know, I have to like tell a story here. I have to break away from this. So we're going to start talking about immune herbs and enhancing the mechanism, the spirit, the system in the body that looks after everything and makes sure that everything's well. So yeah, I kind of forgot where I was going. I was going to do a digression off of that. Don't really remember, but anyway, so we'll just go back to the talking about the herbs. And maybe I was going to say that my life goes like way back taking this stuff, you know. And I was taking as soon as I found out about herbs, and especially the health food store that I went to when I was a teenager in my late teens, used to sell a lot of things like that. I had, maybe close to as much stuff as Mountain Rose Herbs, but it was in bulk bins in a store, old school, really full spectrum health food store. And so a lot of these things like astragalus and podarco and cat's claw, and I mean the cat's claw and podarco, I think I've been taking just like literally forever. So when I do remember where I was going to go with this, because it just popped back on again, of like, it's kind of crazy for somebody like me, and maybe if you watch me a lot, maybe you're kind of a little bit, and when I say crazy, we're actually normal, okay? So the crazy is the people that live crazy, and there's a lot of them, and so they think we're crazy because we don't do what they do, and this is in the area of every kind of wellness to do with the way you eat, lifestyle, belief system, choices. Yeah. And so when you're like this, and especially if you haven't like created your way into being like this, you've kind of always been that way, and you've always had a natural penchant to sort of, you know, surround yourself with yourself, so to speak. I've said this before in the video. It's not, I don't think it's the context of what the lyric means in Yes, although who's ever really sure what a Yes lyric means totally. But surrounding yourself with yourself, and you're like a healthy person, and you're a prone towards being vegan, and you know, you don't like the fact that people drink those oh God, the way they drink those all now. It used to be just soda pop and stuff like that, and now people have these energy drinks, which are super expensive and definitely not good for you. There might be like a healthy one out there that's all, it could be done. But, you know, all these things that people just eat all their life. And for somebody like me, just to use the example of me, so I get on with the story of like, you know, the only people that were in my life really that ate like shit, because I chose all my friends and all the people that I was around, and we all did the same thing, not in any kind of redundant robotic way, but we were all just oriented towards wellness, like being in harmony with the planet. That all started for me when I was like maybe 1986, I think, or something. I think I really started becoming aware of environmentalism with the band Depeche Mode, of like when I was like 19 or 20. They had some environmental like messages in some of their tracks, like everything counts in large amounts, and just talking about like pollution. God, what's that song that they have? Is the landscape is changing. I think that's when I first became really super conscious of like humans. You right now is when people are or aren't making choices. So all this like kind of consciousness with ecology or environmentalism or both goes back, of course, way back. People like Benjamin Franklin were into it in his time, and other things. And then I'm just a norm, although I don't really look normal to you. I'm from a very normal family, adopted into it, of course, and so I became this. I became who I am, and so I'd just be around my parents, and they'd be the only people I'd see that eats in a very like way that's the Satan of the raw vegan Jesus way that I eat. In all of its like extreme arenas, meaning mostly sprouted food, mostly like totally all organic without question. Even if I happen to have a day where I feel like cooking up some cauliflower, always organic. Everything, and yeah, it does mean something to do that. So you can kind of like wind up spending the better part of your lifetime not really knowing how stupid people are. Like that they don't get that when what you constantly, so every cell, every part of your body is reinvented every 7 years. So where does that come from. It's of course being fueled by its, the architecture of the regenerating of your body. That architecture is all like who controls that? That's all done, of course, by the sort of spiritual, divine, and when I say spiritual, I mean the spiritual earth side. I think kind of the thing that's like Mother Nature, or the essence. It could call it, I guess it might be like Chi, Ruach, Holy Spirit, quantum field. Could be that does that. But the point is that every 7 years, so I'm like 57 and a half, so it's been like 8 cycles of 7, and where does all that coming from? The energy to produce that is from what you eat. And so if you're just literally from at birth eating nothing and continuing to eat nothing and making it worse and putting alcohol and what's that stuff called? I just was around a kid that's like 15 or 16 or something, and OD'd, crushed up some Percocet or something like that, and snorted it with a kid that had done a lot of it. I guess I don't know if that's out of hand everywhere, but these are all the things that are like contributing to humans not being healthy. So my point being about the thing that's the CV and the sort of talking that the organization that has a C on one side of their name and a C on the other side of their name, and then has a D in the middle. And those people that are B, there's obviously, I realized very quickly that you can't measure this all the same, because you have people like me that, good Lord, I mean, I don't have an easy life with the life that I live, but it's like, I've sort of sorted this out before. I would spend a lot of money on these tonic herbs, reishi, and, I do have it taken down to like, I've sorted out what is important for me, and these have shifted over time. I've really taken on a big change, and the big change that's come with me is fasting and meditation, so which are really two things that are all by themselves, and somebody could, I don't think you can get away with just eating whatever you want with meditation and yoga, or just going, or ritual magic and stuff, like all these things that clean you out spiritually. I don't think that you could get away with just eating regular food. There's no way. We're physical. We are, even though we are these spirits in this body, in this physical 3D dimension, we're still, that's how we're here. And so until we know for sure that we can maybe astral project out will at any time, can we start taking chances with like going, oh, we're all spirit. But I don't think you can get away with, I think you can get away with fasting a lot, and when you do eat, and I've gone way down in weight, way serious, and it's like everything is better for me. And I just, so what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't seem right that everybody has to live at a standard of this code of like how we are dressed and what actions we're doing when we're in public. And I'm pretty different, so I don't really have a great perspective. Outside the door is a mountain neighborhood that's like not middle of nowhere, but it's definitely not like the city at all. So there's really no virus going on up here. But I was thinking about a lot of the people who are being activists with not wearing masks, some health food people. And I was just thinking, well, why not stay and just play it safe and stuff? But the thing is the whole big conceptual idea is all out of control, with the fact that healthy, super healthy people, or generally healthy people, which I think they're from community to community. You're going to kind of generally find probably, what would that be, lowest common denominator of health-minded people, probably at a very high thing in San Francisco and possibly Seattle and Portland and stuff like that, of like what are the things that you should eat and put in your body, and what are modalities of things that you should do every day to maintain the physical energy in your body, be those yoga practices, running, swimming, whatever you do, whatever works for you, as long as you don't allow those things to like pollute your mind. Like, I was climbing for a while, and there's so much toxic masculinity and ego and bullshit in there. I was just like, and I kind of got along really quick. I kind of, in just a few months, I surprised myself with the climbing of like what I could do. And now I'm just like, I've completely lost interest with just being around the wrong vibe. So we're just talking about getting the body. All right. At this point, you want to have the body. You're not like, you're going to need to go in isolation, and I can give you a program to do if you want to all of a sudden become healthy people when you've been in the matrix in such a buried way of not knowing that the matrix is there. And you're not watching my channel if you're like that, so don't worry about it. But we could, I have a couple of videos coming up after this one, so I just want to say is like, it doesn't seem like the greatest idea to like people have to like do stuff, and the really unhealthy people, because that's what's happening here. Is nature is getting us back. So there's association with the C and the V. There's an association of that with that, which makes sense to me. When I first heard it, I was like, "That's it." So the thing that just started with the, what I'm recording this on, the what do you call that? The, you know what I mean? The yeah. And the thing that's a G and a 5, but you reverse them when you actually talk about it, not on a channel that's possibly being monitored by YouTube robots. So there was, when the world became enlightened, or enlightened, the physical light of having electricity everywhere, there was apparently a big pandemic. I don't really know the dates of these things. I'm sort of repeating this stuff from reputable people who've like followed this sort of energetic medicine of us with electricity. And I do have a huge video of truth talking about EMF, RF, and all that kind of stuff. Yep. And I'm really on board with this. So so basically, when the world got covered with electricity initially, there was a pandemic. And when the world got covered by radar, there was a pandemic. I think that was the big one. Yeah. And so I don't know why this is such a so far off thing for people to realize, is that the whole cell phone culture, it's really, I really like technology. I would not know people like Truth Calkins and where I'm at without technology, but there needs to be a sensible thing going on where you're not just on it like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 hours a day and carrying it on you all the time and looking at it first thing in the morning and looking at it before you go to bed, and all that stuff. So nature is getting back. And then there's also the vegan thing of like, I don't even know what the sort of atrocious, scary number is of the murders that go down every day to feed humans meat. And the coronavirus, the CV is coming from all that's where it's coming from, apparently, is the sort of wet markets of China, which I know they exist. I don't think they're as bad in Thailand as they are in China, because China is like super, like there's a big section of them that are wealthy and what have you. But that's it. So did you get the information in here that I'm trying to say is that I don't think that if you're like healthy, and we'll talk about what is healthy. We'll talk about what is healthy. Ask me some questions about food, and let's, like, more than any other post that I've put up. I think that there should be some talking we could do about food and how to get really nutritionally dense, sensible ideas going. Protocols, like when I say protocols, like just eating like a ton of fermented food. And if you have a house where you can leave it out, not uncovered, but I don't really have to put stuff, my house is so free of dust and stuff, and I got to, I don't have to refrigerate it, so I just let it go for, just until it's gone, until I eat it. And I go through like a gallon jar about every, maybe, I don't know, it depends on if I'm fasting or not, but right now I'm eating food, so a month for a jar, a gallon jar. Anyways, so that's when I just talk about like getting into like fermented food, getting into sprouting, which people talk about raw vegan and everything. This is essential. This is essential. You can't get away from that. Every food is trying to be packaged and be that somehow in the long run. I'm not talking about emotional eating, like fruitarian stuff is just, I don't even know where that, this doesn't even make any sense. It never has really to me. I was just, like I said, I'm really into fasting, and that's like kind of a step above fasting, isn't it? Or it would be like, I won't be going that way because I don't eat fruit. So anyways, I just want to say, put that in your thinking and think about it, so that I really was feeling the collective consciousness in a really big way today. The sadness that's inside the collective consciousness because people are not having food, people are not having money, they don't know what their future is, they're, it's the most unsure that it's ever been in a long time in our recent memory. So, what did I do with that? Oh, I didn't bring it. Imagine that. Oh, there it is over there. Okay. So, I got a new tarot deck, which is a very interesting deck. It's like an oracle. It's definitely an oracle deck. I don't know if there's, how many cards are in there? It looks like more than 44. It doesn't look like quite 78. So maybe this is already breaking out of the whole realm of differences between tarot and oracle. It does say, oh, I have it upside down. It does say that it's oracle deck. Oh, it goes, no, it doesn't go both directions. So let's pull a card from here. And this is the overall energy of how conscious, spiritual people that are doing the great work, how they should be in a general philosophical like umbrella of you can't make this up. So it says fate. And the interesting thing is the drawing on there. It's like this sort of egg on like a royal pillow thing with like divine energy coming out of the top of its head, and it's like birthing like a flower kind of. So fate. Yeah, that's a very simple thing for me to talk about in relation to this CV thing. and all the associations with it. And the basic association with it is that nature is getting back. There's no way that such a stupid collective consciousness is going to rule over something that's as powerful as the Ruach, as Mother Nature, as the force of the planets, as it's all of this has all been in the design, fate. This is supposed to happen. Don't try to wish wish yourself to gain information and new knowledges and new areas of growth in your divine spiritual trip to find out who you are. But this is meant to be. This is like been in the stars forever that this was coming, and it's not ending just like switching a new year. It's already the second, isn't it? Yeah, I guess yesterday was the, maybe, I don't know, second or third right now. No, it's the third, yeah. Of just having the attitude that you're living in an era where big heavy fate tsunamis are coming, and this is where you put all your spiritual work to the process, and you do things that are sensible. Maybe you've thought about it, but you know, this book I have that's a famous raw food book, Survival in the 21st Century, and I haven't really myself bought a lot of food during this whole entire thing because I just wanted to like put my survivalist sproutarian ways into test, and like, you know, I have these black lights in my space here. You might have seen them, but yeah, they tend to draw moths, and so yeah, with just doing sensible things with the refrigerator, and the moths sort of get into some of the like soft wheat stuff, which when I say soft wheat, I mean like buckwheat or stuff like that that you sprout. I sprout all of that. So, but it's been a test of that kind of thinking of where it's like, oh, well, that's interesting that I learned that, is that I'm actually kind of, because I was living at the Vipassana Center, that's where I started doing this, and probably why it became so easy, of just sprouting and making blended soups and throwing in some cultured food, which that would be like bought stuff, you know, like cabbage heads and sweet potatoes, and these are all things that last forever. It's like I just don't get like avocados or all these things that are perishable. You know, cabbage in a house that's 68, you could leave it out on the floor. The green cabbage, the purple cabbage doesn't do, but you could just leave it outside the refrigerator on the floor because it's cooler down there. I noticed one that I left, I wasn't really paying attention, and I think it had been sitting there for a couple months, and it was just like I took the outer leaves off, cut it when I was chopping it to do the, you know, stuff it in the jar to make the cultured veg, and it was fine. So just getting more intimate, like all of this stuff of just like, this is the problem with the people that are the sheeple, is they just basically they're just like, it's like a factory farm already. They're just going down these like rows, looking for a space to stick their head in and just munch whatever's there for them, and whatever fate comes with just of being lost and not knowing the difference. Like, of course it blows us away. When I say us, me and all of you, how dumb people are when it comes to like what is healthy eating. So support me by supporting my music. I'm gonna like just start doing some really new stuff, you know. Thanks, by the way, for anybody that watched those little cell phone things that I put up. My life is becoming more about that. I like that. There's been some big shifts. I've done a lot of spell magic, very intentional manifestation. The ceremonial magic is basically to sort of clean out your energy field and become more yeah, godlike, of tapped into that divine energy that's the creator. And we've like fabricated this sort of facade around us to where that deepest, most true, most important thing about us can't express itself. So that's what we're doing when we're doing ceremonial magic. But then you can do some spell magic, some very specific things, some candle magic, some keeping repetitive journals and cutting those up and burning them, and then using the ash from that and water to like write sigils, and then charge that with the moon or the sun or whatever astrological thing is going. And I did a lot of that, and I can feel things changing very slowly, but it seems like years ago that was like July. So support me by supporting my music. Links in the drop down. It's Keith. So hopefully this video doesn't get pulled down. I didn't think I was like quite as shocking as I thought I was going to be. That's the one main thing I have to say, is that coronavirus can't get a healthy person. And the problem with a healthy person is most people, especially that guy that runs the thing with the C at the beginning and the C at the end and the D in the middle, that guy. And he was in a video I was in, a movie. This girl who made the Behind the Fear movie of my HIV journey, the guy whose name is F, and he's the head of the thing that's the C at the beginning and the C at the end and the D in the middle. I mean, you shouldn't really rely on people like that are like so supported by everything that's like dark as fuck, and wanting to mold people closer to being sheeple. Make sure you know who you're hanging out with, just on energetic level, on spiritual level of being plugged into divine. Are you hanging around with another super cosmic, like light worker, psychic warrior, or are you hanging out with a sheeple, a muggle, a matrix dweller, somebody that's a stupid fuck that doesn't know what the fuck is going on?